Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
Thank you so much for being a part of Series 5 of the Plant-Based Podcast. There's plenty more to come, but it's time to say goodbye to our joint sponsor, Always Kalanchoe. In case you didn't know, Kalanchoe are super little flowering succulents. They give you months of flowers, awesome colours, and ease of growth. You can find out more about the expert team at Always Kalanchoe by following them on Instagram. You'll find them under Always Kalanchoe.
Hi, I'm Mollie Higginson.
And I'm Natalie Porter.
We're two of the co-founders and presidents of the Young People in Horticulture Association.
Michael and Ellen have handed us the keys to the Plant-Based Podcast for one day only, so we can take you on a little road trip through some of the issues affecting young people in the world of gardening and horticulture.
In today's podcast, we're going to talk about why young people are obsessed with houseplants, but less excited about horticulture as a career option.
We'll speak with one of our members, Lizzie, who set up her own plant-based subscription service on the back of lockdown. We'll talk to a garden centre about how they've changed the way they market to their customers in the age of social media. And then we'll make a quick stop off to discuss the most visually appealing element of Bridgerton.
I'm guessing you're talking about the wisterias.
You are wrong. I was talking about Reggae Jean Page, but we can talk about wisteria.
I think we should. To kick us off, we have Chris and Sarah from More People Recruitment to talk about why our wonderful industry is often overlooked as a potential career option for school leavers.
Hi there, my name's Chris. I work for More People Recruitment. I recruit directly for the garden centre industry. I wanted to give you my thoughts on young people in horticulture, what the issues are and what I actually see on a day-to-day basis when I search the market and when I talk to candidates.
My name's Sarah. I also work at More People Recruitment alongside Chris, but I tend to focus more on the hands-on side of horticulture, so do a lot of work within the growing sector, looking at growers for soft fruit, ornamentals, and everything in between.
So we're going to have a bit of a conversation and just give you our views and thoughts. Obviously, we work directly with the market. So again, I love my job, I absolutely adore it, but I don't work firsthand. So I get people jobs, I get them, where they want to get to, and obviously Sarah does the same. I think one of the main issues I find is getting the sort of young graduates into especially garden centres, because I've never placed anyone who's straight from uni who wants to actually work in that industry. It's a bit of a weird one. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially on the garden centre side, we find that a lot of graduates don't want to spend 3 years at university to then work in a retail environment. They tend to utilise their knowledge in other ways. Obviously, there's so many different roles within horticulture, but I find that they're not that well publicised. I didn't really have any idea about horticulture and what you could do within the industry until I started here. A lot of the people that we speak to typically come from somebody within their family having worked in horticulture, and that's how they ended up in the industry, or they might find a summer job that they end up never leaving. They're typically how I find people. Yeah, no, absolutely.
When I was at college, I didn't even know you could do a horticulture degree or do a plant degree or anything like that. It's a strange one. I don't know what you think, but I know in the sort of garden centre industry, you go to the plant section and there's one person who you confidently go up to, and then you'd ask them. You wouldn't go to the Saturday staff because I don't think you'd get the same results. You wouldn't get the knowledge, you wouldn't get the experience. But then how do you get that if you've not worked there?
Yeah, absolutely. I personally think the big problem in horticulture in general, and garden centre side, the growing side and everything else, is that the industry isn't overly well promoted. A lot of the universities that used to do those horticultural courses have actually just stopped doing them because there isn't enough intake into them, but then they're also not being promoted to get that intake, so it's quite a vicious circle. So actually finding people that understand the industry early in their career is quite tough, and alongside that I find that wage isn't the best within the horticulture industry, not early on anyway.
I absolutely agree with that. I think it's a very, very underpaid industry, whether you're looking at nursery growers or, you know, garden centre staff, especially for the younger generation. I mean, it's so easy to get a job in a supermarket now or in a warehouse and get, you know, almost double the salary sometimes of someone working in horticulture. So
yeah, absolutely. I used to work in a supermarket before working in here, and the salaries you get paid in a supermarket are so much better than the starting salaries within horticulture, and they also come with things like discount, a slightly better work-life balance. They're not so physical, they're indoors, so the attractiveness to work in a nursery or outdoors in a garden centre isn't always there compared to what else they can be doing. But what do you think we can do to make it better?
So I think, from previous discussions with the RHS and, you know, different people in the industry, I definitely think we need to support people from a younger age. So I think we need to get schools into garden centres, to go around nurseries, to go around growers' sites and really sort of get a hands-on approach. It's not going to be for everyone, and we've not got to sort of lie to ourselves and think that everyone's going to want to work getting their nails dirty and, you know, different things like that. But, you know, if you can get people at a young age into gardening, especially at the sort of college age where there's so much to give, I think that's probably the only way we can do it, really. I think it's always going to be an underpaid industry. That's not really going to change. I think it has been for many, many years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we need to show people that there's more to horticulture than just gardening. You've got your garden centres, your growers, buying, selling, and there's so much in between, and it is a really exciting industry to work in. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Like I say, we're blessed because, you know, we get to speak to people all day, every day that are working in the industry, and, you know, a lot of those calls, people absolutely love their jobs. And don't get me wrong, you know, a lot of people sort of in the 40s, 50s, they still want to work in horticulture. They were there years ago and they're still there now. So yeah, I think we really need to sort of work on some sort of apprenticeship, promotional extra training, that sort of thing, and just try and get younger people into it. And like I say, it's such a great industry to work in. It's just almost a shame that, you know.
We'd be more than happy to talk to anybody who's thinking about moving on to a career in horticulture, whether that be CV advice, career advice, anything at all. Just give us a call, have a look on our website, and we're Sarah and Chris.
Yeah, thank you guys. See you later.
Bye.
So some really good insights there, I thought, from Chris and Sarah. I have with me Josh Egan-Wyer from Pershall College. He's the head of the garden centre and nursery there. Now, Josh, the big question really from me is, why would people look to a horticultural career when they could potentially be making more stacking shelves?
Well, it's a comment I make quite regularly myself to people I work with and other colleagues in the industry. But as you all full well know, working in horticulture isn't about just what salary you're getting. It's a love and it's a passion for so many people that work there. You know, I myself don't come from a horticultural background, but grandparents interested in gardening, and that maybe, you know, if you'll pardon the pun, probably kind of set the seed with me. And, you know, I was lucky enough to be able to start a career in it. It's, you know, I do it because I just love being outside and working with plants. And being involved in nature. Not that I actually spend an awful lot of time getting my hands dirty. You know, I'm a manager. Yeah,
I think that's a really good point, actually. Like, Mollie and I both work in horticulture. Michael and Ellen work in horticulture, and none of us are necessarily dirt under the nails jobs too often. You know, marketeers, PR representatives, website builders can all work in horticulture and have a big role to play in the progression of the industry without ever spending a day grafting out in the cold, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can go, a couple of weeks within my job without actually touching a plant. I mean, especially when I'm on the road, I cannot even see a clematis or a climbing plant for a couple of weeks, but that doesn't mean I work in horticulture anymore. My day doesn't involve just making sure I grow some nice plants. It's, looking after those customers and making sure they're happy with the products they're getting. And that doesn't mean that I'm a plant handler.
Absolutely, and I think that actually there needs to be a bit of a culture shift in how we kind of other people see horticultural careers. It isn't just a case of going out and gardening, swooping up leaves and growing plants. I love plants, and if I went a few weeks without touching any plants, well, I'd be pretty upset, because I do enjoy getting my hands in compost and just talking to my plants and stroking them and everything. But I spend a lot of time doing all the business analysis sort of stuff, looking at finances and figures and stock, and researching new areas that we're going to branch into and what products we're going to grow. It's the same sort of skills you could apply to any sort of industry. I just happen to be doing it in a horticultural setting because I absolutely love plants and enjoy being immersed in horticulture.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, as you say, as with any other industry, there are 6-figure salaries out there. I would just happen that there are a couple of a bit further up the food chain than any of us on this podcast right now. But there definitely are people out there who are making really good money out of our industry. And I think one of the main things for me is, I've only been in the industry 8-9 years, but my dad's got 40 years or so behind him. And every trade show you go to, he bumps into someone from Pershore College class of 1984 every 5 meters. And it really is the case that the people that have come up through these training levels, once we can feed people into them, and once we can get people into a horticultural career, they never really leave.
No, I did the BSc in horticulture, and I found that within 6 months of me graduating, and me and my colleagues graduating, all of us were in horticultural employment, and still are now in horticultural employment. We're all in various jobs with other nurseries or running our own businesses. There's not many people I'm aware of that leave the industry once they get into it, because it's just fascinating. It's all encompassing. It becomes your life.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the case even for for the cases of me and my dad. Neither of us went to horticultural college or decided horticulture was a career for us. My dad started off as an office manager for New Leaf Plants before he invested in the company, and that was in 1995, and he's never left. And I came here 4 years ago looking for a summer job, and actually decided that it was something I did want to do and I wanted to progress in, and I couldn't see myself not working in horticulture now.
Yeah, I think it's especially valid a career choice now we have the YPHA as well, because we were a little bit lone wolves a couple of years ago, weren't we? And I think that's why we started it all, really, was because it did feel quite isolated as a young person in an industry that is unfortunately very much very much the vast majority of demographics represented are middle-aged white men. So we are finding our peers, aren't we, really? And the group we've pulled together out of, all corners of the industry is a really powerful force, and I think is a much more positive view on the industry moving forward. Now we all know who each other are, and we've almost become like I don't want to say an army, but definitely allies that we didn't have before. Only strengthens horticulture.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, as we started going to those meetings nearly 2 years ago now within the HTA and other areas of horticulture, we found that, between me and you, Nat, we could be sometimes the only women and sometimes the only people that were under 40 that were in the room. And now that it's nice, there's a bigger force of us, and people know that YPHA is where you find the young people in horticulture. We are getting our name out there much more and being invited to events and different places to go and different things to do that we would never been allowed to, or, even had the option of going to, because people didn't know we were around, the young people were there and wanted to be involved.
Can I tell you a bit of a secret?
Go on then.
Historically, now I'm past this phase of my life, and I have repented my sins. But historically, I didn't particularly like plants. I know an absolute black sheep of my family. I grew up in a family that bred specimens for flower shows, and we're absolute top of the trade in fuchsias, which is what my family traditionally did. And I think I just got saturated by it, and there was just too much of it going on. And the only side of the industry I ever saw was when I went into help in half term and got conned somehow into filling plant pots for 9 hours a day, 8 days a week, felt like it. And then it was only I had an injury. I used to ride horses. I had an injury about 8-9 years ago, and I was on a really strong painkiller, and the doctor said I wasn't to be alone, so I had to go in the office with my dad for a few days. And I just remember looking out the window, and there's 300,000 primroses in full, well, not quite in full flower, but in good colour, straight outside the window. And I remember thinking, do you know what, this isn't a bad place to be. I don't think there's many people that would have that effect outside their window. And our business is Happy Plants, and I think that's a really strong message as well, is that in terms of the mental health of you as an employee, I think horticulture is in a really good place in that respect.
Yeah, Nat, I'm going to have to agree with you there. I also was not a plant fan.
I can't believe this.
I just think it was me and Mollie trying to rebel because our fathers were so adamant that this was what they did and this was what we were going to do. It was a rebellion.
Yeah, I almost saw the opposite side, I guess, to you, Nat. I used to, when I was a lot younger and it'd be half term and school holidays and my mum had to work or whatever, I'd end up going to work with my dad most days. And I'd end up being in that office instead of being out on the nursery because I was too young to be out there on my own. And his office back in those days was 4 walls, no windows. And, all I saw was the stress and the pain that sometimes that horticulture can give you with the stress of trying to grow plants since when the weather's not doing what you want, or trying to find the right amount of water for things and making sure that your suppliers are getting you the right stuff and making sure you're getting the plants out. And I think I saw that side of the industry first and thought, oh, this isn't for me. I don't want to be involved in this. I used to just sit there and get all of his stamps out that he used to have to stamp delivery notes with and just stamp it all over his desk. But I think as I actually got older and I started doing summer jobs out on the nursery instead, and actually being on the potting machine and working with the plants and feeling the family side of New Leaf Plants with all of our staff have been with us for so many years that they are family to us. I really grew into it then, and I really got involved a lot more and understood the industry a lot more and enjoyed it.
See, it was completely different for me because I, having not come from a horticultural background, I kind of wasn't exposed to it at all. I didn't even know what horticulture was until I accidentally found it, I think, on a website and kind of realised, it's not just gardening.
Was it one of those websites where it predicts what career you should have? Because mine said I should be a fisherman.
Yeah, mine should have been...
Fisherman.
Yours said a what?
Fisherman. I get seasick in the bath and it said I should be a fisherman.
A fisher person, maybe?
Yeah, a fisher person.
Mine said I should be a website designer or a landscape architect. And because of the landscape architecture, that's where I kind of, after about 3 or 4 different searches beyond from that, that's where I kind of found horticulture and realised it wasn't just, sweeping up leaves and cutting grass, which is what the perception of our whole industry is, really. And that's how I had to explain it to people almost when I was going to uni and leaving home, and people said, oh, what are you off to uni to do? And I went, oh, horticulture. You go, what on earth's that? And I went, well, it's just plants and stuff, really. Oh, all right, okay. And they look at you a bit oddly. But for me, I was really excited, and I hadn't been exposed to all that horticulture, just gardening with grandparents and being really keen to try and learn what I could before I started uni. And I remember my first week at college, and I can still remember, because plants being my first and foremost passion, I still remember those first 10 plants on my ident list that very first week at college. And I remember talking to other people on my course, just being absolutely, blown away, really, that there were other people my age talking Latin plant names, and I just felt I didn't feel like a weirdo anymore.
But you did say that you did just suggest that you prefer plants to your wife and child at some point there.
Oh, yeah, that sounds a bit bad, actually, doesn't it? Yeah, no, they come first, very, very, very closely followed by plants. But no, of course, yeah, where wife and child always come first. But but yeah, no, plants are a very close second.
maybe I'm the only one that's on that route then, that, you know, when they on the website it tells you what to do. Mine said I should be a director of a company, so maybe I'm the only one that's actually on that path right now.
How do you know I'm not a secret fisherman? I could do waders. Anyway, I think this has been really interesting to discuss. I hope we haven't gone off on too much of a tangent between us on careers in horticulture. As Chris and Sarah said, you know, they're the experts. If you if you are looking to move into the industry, they're the people to go to pull it together. But just basically, don't be put off by the threat that there's never going to be a decent salary in it. There are decent salaries out there. Don't be put off by the dirt under the nails, working through the cold of winter in a field side of things. That's not all there is to our industry. And as we've said a few times now, if you get into the horticultural industry as a career, expect to find yourself staying there in some guise for the rest of your working days. Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much.
It's been interesting to us as a young people group to see over 3 million new gardeners since lockdown, and we have already seen this within our membership. We asked all our new members what brought them into horticulture. Before lockdown, over 50% were in horticulture because their parents were. Now we are getting more and more new members joining who took to gardening whilst in lockdown and have already moved into a horticultural career.
So it seems like the key to getting more younger people working in our industry might just be to coax them into a gardening hobby first. Now, one corner of our industry that's really thrived in this respect has been houseplants, which are phenomenally popular amongst the younger audience. It almost seems like where people might be considering previously a stage in their relationship where they might buy a pet, it's now perhaps we should think about getting a houseplant. Now, we spoke with one of our members, Emily, who runs the British Garden Club, about why she thinks they might be so popular amongst that elusive younger audience.
Hi, my name's Emily, and I am the owner of the British Garden Club. So we do little compost for houseplant owners. So I'm here just to have a little chat about why houseplants have done so well in kind of the last couple of years, and especially during the pandemic. So I think kind of the first reason is just a lot of younger people especially don't have the space to have a full garden. So we're looking to sort of indoor measures to keep our gardens in and have a couple of plants, really. And so I think that's kind of like the first big reason. And obviously, houseplants are great because you can have them on a windowsill. They're tailored to being indoors, so that definitely works. I think the second thing probably is that now we're kind of in the pandemic. We were definitely getting more sort of health conscious. So, for example, air plants and stuff and purifying the air with COVID being an airborne disease is what we think. It definitely kind of made sense that people wanted to have pure air in their homes, and houseplants are a great way to do that. And that also kind of relates to the sort of mental health of it. Houseplants are a great talking point, especially for people living in flats and apartments, which is kind of the main people who are buying them. It's great because you can, if you have one plant and your neighbour has a similar plant, you can chat about it. You can be like, oh, this one's got a new leaf or whatever. So it's definitely, forming a community. And I think the social media community as well around plants and gardening is such a positive one. Like, where, for me, what really got me into it and why I wanted to do a horticultural career really is because in the pandemic there was some really horrible kind of sides to social media, but I always found like the gardening one, my gardening page, was always a really positive place. Like, there's no trolls and nothing like that. So I think it's definitely a really sort of safe space for people to kind of express themselves. And then lastly, I think this is kind of different from houseplants, but just in general, people want to grow their own food and want to be closer to their sort of production line, and the sustainability elements of it are just tenfold. Growing your own food and eating it cuts down on transport, cuts down on plastic. It's amazing. So that's kind of another reason that they do it, that people have really got into they're growing their own, I think. And this is the thing, if every single person in the UK had one plant, imagine how many plants that would be. That's like 60 million. So it really goes a long way into offsetting carbon emissions.
So it's obvious that houseplants have become a must-have for young people. However, we want to see the same popularity across more corners of our industry. One business who has done this really successfully is the Rose Press Garden, which is a seed subscription service set up by one of our members, Lizzie, during lockdown. We spoke to Lizzie about the steps she has taken to revolutionise the way seeds are marketed to the younger audience.
Hi, Lizzie. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. What a lovely introduction.
Thank you for joining us. We were absolutely adamant we were featuring you as part of our podcast because we are so proud of you and everything you've done in these last few months. Coming from somebody that didn't work in the industry at all to somebody who's now, you know, I think a guiding light for the way forward for horticulture. How have you ended up in a horticulture profession when, you know, 18 months ago it wasn't ever even on your horizon?
Yeah, it's been quite the whirlwind couple of years. And for me, I've always been a hobby gardener, grown up with gardening and kind of learned from my parents. So it was never really a career option for me. So I went into marketing. And then when I was in lockdown, I just received a really boring packet of seeds in the post in a white bashed up envelope with some adverts for some elasticated waistband trousers, some Velcro slippers. And when you open something, you're like, this is clearly not aimed at my age range. Yet so many people were getting into gardening and growing seeds for the first time and getting outside. So I started sharing videos and sort of sharing what I was doing. And then I was like, gosh, there's such an opportunity here to make gardening more modern, to make it more fun, and also to make it really easy, because there's so much jargon used in gardening that kind of doesn't need to be used, and lots of Latin terms. And if you're a new gardener, it can be quite overwhelming. So really, from receiving that kind of package to then having all the experience in marketing that I'd had in my previous job, I just saw this big opportunity and I decided just to go for it and get more younger people into gardening.
I would be so excited to receive that parcel each month. If anybody hasn't seen Lizzie's business, please check it out. It's like, it looks like a box of sweets when it arrives each month. And, you know, we've all at some point tried some sort of subscription model, be it Birchbox or Graze, send you sweet little treats through the post, whatever it is. And it's part of it is the excitement of the mystery and the surprise and that sort of unboxing effect. So I think you've done brilliantly and really found a market for what was
a bit of happy post, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
For something that some people might perceive as quite boring, like previously, like, oh, you just go to the garden centre to pick up. But my target audience are people who aren't going to garden centres. They've never sown a seed. They've never picked up a trowel. They don't have a clue how to plant a bulb, which is totally fine. And that's a huge proportion of the UK population who are literally totally clueless, a bit like I was when I started. We all were when we started. So for me, it's just making it easy and wrapping it beautifully and making it fun and making it as, you know, a lovely little parcel to receive either for yourself or as a gift. So the subscription's been really popular, which has been amazing.
And part of your ethos is sort of, you don't need a big garden to make the most out of the product.
Yeah, so all my subscription boxes have either five packets of seeds to sow that month, or a bulb collection, or things like dahlia tubers next year, and lots of exciting things like that. So you can just skip certain months if you know that you don't have any more room. So it's completely flexible. But I do lots of other things on my website, just one-off things for balconies. So I do balcony seed pack, because I think people think just because you've got a balcony or a very small patio, you can't grow from seed and that you need everything instantly. But part of the fun is sowing seeds and growing. So all different sizes for all different people, whether you're a beginner or if you've been gardening for a while. There's some funky new varieties in there as well.
That's really, really impressive. Now, I really think that you've done a superb job. What's been the most exciting part of it for you? I think I could guess.
Yeah, you're probably going to guess. For me, it was getting accepted by the RHS, or them asking me to go to Chelsea Flower Show, which was absolutely amazing and such a huge opportunity for me within my first year of owning the business. So 5 months in, I found out I had a space, and then in September later in the year I got to go, which was just absolutely amazing and incredible, and so great to meet so many people, also just see behind the scenes, because I've been going to Chelsea for years anyway, so it's amazing to be there with my own brand. So yeah, what an amazing thing to happen in the first year. So that's definitely the highlight.
Brilliant. Oh, it's been lovely to talk to you, Lizzie. Thank you for your input there. So people can find you. Social media is a big part of what you do, isn't it? So people can find you social media. You've got a jazzy website too.
Yeah, I mean, Instagram has been how I've grown the business. It's been amazing. So I'm on Instagram, The Rose Press Garden, and my website is therosepressgarden.com. But yeah, thank you for having me.
If we're super quick, we can get our hands on an advent calendar.
Yeah, so I've got a flower seed advent calendar. It has 24 packets of seeds, and there's a donation to charity with the purchase, like everything that I sell on my website as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lizzie. Speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
So Lizzie's business takes a completely fresh approach to marketing to younger people. However, we are at no such point where any sort of subscription service is going to take over our traditional garden centres, which we will still rely on heavily as an industry for hopefully years to come. Lizzie mentioned that Instagram has been a huge part of her business's success, so we spoke to one such garden centre to see how they have changed up their marketing strategies in an age of social media.
I'm Matt and I'm the Retail and Events Manager at the Old Railway Line Garden Centre in Mid Wales. I've worked at the Garden Centre for 15 years, and during that time a lot has changed when it comes to the ways in which we contact and engage with our customers and community. Previously, the most efficient way to share information with our customers outside of the centre would have been to place regular adverts in local newspapers or via newsletters through the post. However, being in the digital age, it's easier and more environmentally friendly to send information through online platforms such as blog posts, emails and app notifications. The huge uptake in social media users has made communicating even easier and is arguably the most efficient way to provide information. We find that information provided visually through videos and images is a lot easier to relate to than sending out newsletters. Through the use of videos, we're able to create step-by-step how-to guides for beginners or run through monthly tips and seasonal advice, a great way for people to see exactly how to undertake certain gardening tasks. Not only has social media made it easy for us to send information, but also for people to get in touch with us. We receive a good quantity of questions each day throughout various social media platforms and are able to instantly respond and help with any advice people need. This means that again people can gain specific knowledge for each job which they're looking to do quickly and easily. As a centre, we're extremely passionate about helping to make gardening accessible to anyone and everyone, no matter what age or level of expertise. I personally believe that starting out in horticulture can initially come across as quite a daunting career or hobby to undertake, as there's so much to learn. However, this again is where the use of social media can really help. Through these online mediums, we're able to help educate through the use of videos, blogs and regular posts, breaking down what is quite a vast topic into smaller, more relatable chunks of information. All of this being said, going forward, although we're looking to provide further advice and information through social media channels, printed media such as newspaper and magazine advertising is still an important and viable way to connect with people, as there's a lot of people who do not have access to the internet or have an online presence. As previously mentioned, we believe in making gardening accessible to everyone, and by combining traditional methods of communication with new, we can hopefully be available with advice and information to anyone who may require it.
So it really is becoming increasingly obvious that social media holds a huge key to unlocking the younger demographic that we're so looking for as an industry. Mollie and I are both finding, though, that it's not just social media, but that the same effect is transgressed into wider media, and that we're starting to see the effects of things that are popular on TV or Instagram or whatever form of media it is that are directly affecting our sales. Now, we promised we'd talk about Bridgerton, and I think we're at this point, so I'm going to hand the floor over to Mollie.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, Bridgerton was amazing to watch. And I think we'll all agree that it was such a stunning show. There were wisterias that were falling down in the background, and all the plants they had in there definitely affected our sales. I think we saw a huge increase for demand for things that would grow up arches, pergolas, things that would grow over, a door frame really quickly to get that same effect of those flowers like all above you and falling down on you. And, everyone now wants something climbing up their garden to make sure they've got that same effect. And it's really helped our business, especially as a climber and clem business.
Yeah, I think we've seen a similar effect. I run a bedding plant nursery, and obviously we grow a lot of pansies and violas, and traditionally the ratio has been sort of 75% pansy, 25% viola, and we're now at a point that that's almost 50-50. And I think you can attribute a lot of that to the popularity of violas in decorational posts on social media. So we'll see a lot of cakes with violas on as edible flowers, and I've even seen them in salads, and even on the faces of models walking up and down the catwalk, sort of paper mache'd onto their face will be this collage of violas, a Viola Maché. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I think that just should become a real thing now. I think everyone should just walk around with Viola Maché on their face.
Yeah, we made it first. We said it first. But yeah, it's been, it's become a significant influence on people's behaviour, not just what's happening on social media, but what's happening on the general media.
Yeah, and I think we can definitely take that into more areas of gardening. Like social media is becoming such a huge thing in gardening, and making gardening a young thing and good for other people. But Lizzie touched on the fact that gardening is really closed off. There's such heavy Latin names, so many confusing different ways to actually just plant a plant, and how to prune that plant, how to care for it can be so confusing. And I think we really need to get into that day and age of making it younger. I think someone that actually does it really well at the moment is Joe Lycett. His Instagram stories and his garden is just amazing. He just makes it so much more friendly for the younger generation, makes it way more fun, easy gardening, no confusing side to it. I mean, RHS might not approve of how he words and talks about it, but it's great to go and look at, and it makes it so much more interesting.
Yeah, I really don't think it matters that it's definitely not RHS compliant version of gardening, but it's all about having a go. I think gardening as an industry is a damn sight more resourceful than you'll ever see on any sort of TV makeover show. The gardens in those shows, don't be fooled, they are tens and hundreds of thousands of pounds to pull together all those brand new resources, which is also not only just unrealistic financially, but also excessive in terms of the resources that you're consuming. We have a member who has a YouTube channel or an Instagram Reels, I can't think, but she specifically points you towards a less consumptive way a less consumptive way to do something. So where previously somebody might have gone out to buy a new plant pot, she'll encourage them to get their milk bottle, chop it in half and make two.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to think about it, because I use loads of that sort of stuff in my own garden, especially when it comes to doing like veg seeds and salad seeds and stuff in next year. Like I just use egg pots, and even like the plastic ones, I'll just like drill some holes in the bottom so I know it's drainable, and it becomes so much more green and friendly. And I think that's something that our industry needs to thrive on more. We're a green industry, we're growing a green product, and we're all trying to do better for the environment. So why not use the stuff you're going to put in your recycling bin? Why not use it in your own garden?
Yeah, and I always think it's absolutely integral that we keep everything affordable as well. There were some figures came out on a documentary I watched on the BBC last year that the green spaces in London alone save the NHS £370 million per year, just because of the mental and physical health benefits of being outdoors. Now, that's not something that we want to be pricing people out of, and making them think they need all this complicated equipment to access. So I really do think accessibility comes down to not just the cost of doing so, but also not just the terminology that alienates people, but also the expected costs being way more than it actually needs to be.
Yeah, and you think, that's saving the NHS so much money, like insane amounts of money that we use on so much more useful things. Like green spaces are great for our mental health and well-being, and it's something that we've really seen over the last 2 years. Yeah. Garden centres were able to open slightly earlier in lockdown than other things because they are great for our mental health and well-being, and the government realised the public need that. We need to get out in those open spaces we have, or on our balconies, or even if it's just a pot outside your window. We need those things to make sure that it keeps our mental health better, and we're working on something and thriving, and growing your own products, or even if it's just a house plant and growing and caring for it sometimes it's the thing that gets you up in the morning.
Yeah, it's literally become, I think we mentioned in one of the earlier discussions, it's like you used to decide to get a pet, now you decide to get a houseplant. But they're literally, whether it's indoor or outdoor, they're literally cleaning the air. I just think with going back to social media, I just think like everyone's familiar with the Mrs. Hinch effect. She can make a dishcloth sell out in 0.001 seconds. Cleaning products, I mean, us as a category and a sector are a damn sight more exciting than a dishcloth. And I just really think that as an industry, we need to band together and help people more through the channels that they're already using. If people like Bridgerton come along and give us a little push in the right direction, then that's great. But we need to be more proactive to protect brand horticulture and to keep those 3 million new gardeners that we keep referencing. We need to keep them enthused and engaged, but by keeping it accessible.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, that's a great thing to close on, mental health and social media and all of that, huge pluses to gardening now. And social media is something that as an industry, we really need to put more effort into. And, self-help videos for young gardeners on really easy ways to care for your plants that before have been really complicated to care for are definitely something that, as an industry, we need to be passing on to that next generation of gardeners.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. So I think that's all from us for today. We hope you've enjoyed this YPHA plant-based podcast takeover. If you wanted to find out more about the YPHA and what we do as an organisation, you can visit us. It's ypha.org.uk. I'd like to say a huge thank you to Michael and Ellen for having us, and we really hope you've all enjoyed listening to what we've had to say. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the podcast today. The first half of Series 5 was supported by the team at Always Callan-Chowie, the experts when it comes to this super cool houseplant. Why not visit www.callanchowie.nl or follow at Always Callan-Chowie on Instagram to find out more.
The music for the Plant-Based podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.